everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to another Spoilercast. Hey, look, it's Jayson.
It's me.
Jayson, is this your first Spoilercast, just me and you?
I think so.
I believe it is. We're going to shoot this kind of like a father and son, but it's not officially under that heading, because this is a new thing that came out recently, and we wanted to do a Spoilercast for it. Jayson, what are we tackling today?
We are tackling Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Season 3.
Season 3 specifically, yes indeed. So this just dropped, I think, maybe 3 weeks ago, month ago?
Yeah, just about. It came out on January 1st.
Oh, okay. So it's been out for about 3 weeks now. And Jayson and I just finished it a few days ago. We're a few days off of this, so hopefully everything comes back to us as we're talking. Originally, we were going to do this with DJ, and he watched the first 3 episodes of the season and was not impressed and kind of lost interest in it. He told me he thought that it was too meandery and all over the place, and there was some suspension of disbelief that he just could not bring himself to have. So he's not here with us. Hopefully he finishes the season, because I am fascinated to know what he will think of the end of this. Jayson, this season gave me absolute whiplash. This was a roller coaster. I felt like I was getting jerked around all through this season.
Yeah, me too, because it starts off like I was not liking this season for like the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And then the last half is, amazing.
Yeah, it was a really unusual experience for me, so it's going to be a lot of, and for Jayson too, it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. Jayson obviously is a Cobra Kai fan. He got this headband from his brother for Christmas. This show is certainly a little vulgar. It's not the best thing for kids. Obviously, I'm making an exception for this, like I do with a couple of other things, because it's because Karate Kid is a thing that Jayson has grown up with and loves, and this is a really absurd thing that doesn't take itself too seriously. But there are also consequences for all the violence and some of the kind of raunchy, vulgar stuff. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to showing it to a kid. Obviously, it's going to be a matter of just, taste and your style of parenting and whether you think your kid can handle it. So this is a case-by-case kind of thing, if you're wondering. Or are you letting your 10-year-old watch this show? You're almost 11 now. Yeah. I don't think this is like a Deadpool kind of situation, although it's getting, in some places, even a little bit more vulgar than it had before. There's an F-bomb this season. I was kind of surprised by that.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh.
I think I remember there being a place where that happens. I like that you don't remember, though. That's good.
I really like the way, just throughout the series, it handles the vulgar stuff, because whenever it does something that's pretty vulgar, it's really funny. Like the use of fish.
The use of fish?
The B word.
Oh, okay.
And it in the first and second season.
Wait, you're saying fish is a code word for the B word?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Or does that come up in the show?
No.
Oh, you're just saying fish.
I'm just saying fish.
Okay, whoosh. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
Did you really expect the audience to know what you meant when you said fish?
No.
The way the way it uses fish, Dad. I was cycling through the season in my head going, what scene is that? I thought you were just making using that as an example. That was hilarious. Anyway, so real quick, we'll go ahead and do our usual best thing, worst thing, and do a sign flip. This is a full-on spoiler cast, so any and all details that we think of to chat about are fair game. So if you have not seen this season yet, you might want to take a look at it before you watch the rest of this video. I guess we can go kind of non-spoiler, our best thing, worst thing, for folks that, for whatever reason, are watching this but haven't watched the season yet. But I imagine if you've clicked on this video, you have already seen this season. It is a spoiler cast, and at the very least, you've probably seen the first 2, so you'll know something about this show. So anyway, Jayson, you did go back and watch the first 2 seasons again, so you have more of this fresh in your mind right now.
Yeah.
Than I do, so you could probably help me get through it a little bit, because some of this I've not seen in a while.
And I actually have more than one good thing about thing.
Because
I didn't realize that we were doing a spoiler cast. I thought we were.
You were approaching it just like a father and son.
Yeah. So
Well, give me your absolute best thing and worst thing.
Okay.
If you can, and we can go ahead and just start right there. So first of all, why don't you tell us what you think at the moment is the best season of this show?
I think it's 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just because of the giant crazy school fight?
No, that's not just because of that. It's just...
Okay, but I know you love that.
Yeah. It's just all the, like, really funny stuff they do, and they call back to a lot of things that they did in season 1, like the fish thing. But, yeah, I just think 2 is a pretty fun season.
All the rivalry stuff between the two karate dojos.
And also Crease.
And Crease, yeah.
Yeah.
Is Crease your favorite character?
No.
Are you going to tell me that
that's not on favorite?
Are you going to tell me
my favorite characters?
The psychopathic karate instructor is your favorite character?
Yeah, no.
Nutso Sensei. I really like how he's handled this season. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so for this season, in fact, before we do this, why don't you give us just like a real brief reminder of like the major beats of the season? You don't have to go through like the whole story, but just like what are the main couple things the season is about? We start with a lot of aftermath, right?
Yeah. So basically,
I think with an episode at the beginning called Aftermath.
So basically, one of the huge things is Miguel waking up and
out of his coma.
They have to try to get his legs to work.
Going through physical therapy, yeah.
Which I am not the best fan of.
You're not the biggest fan of that?
I'm not the biggest fan of that.
Okay, what's your issue with it? That it takes too long or that it's too easy?
Both.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, now we're just getting into the major stuff. I just wanted to kind of hit the big thing. So that's a big thing.
Yep. They go back to Okinawa. That's a big thing.
Yep, that's a big thing.
And I really like that stuff. With Chosen and stuff.
The Return of Valley.
Yep. Return of Valley, yeah. And the big fight in Daniel's house, which is like my favorite scene in this whole season. It looks really good. And the two dojos
and takes
working
us
together.
Yeah, and takes us to okay. So we have just now spoiled the major beats of the season. So I guess we're not doing any non-spoiler at all. That's totally cool. Okay, so best thing, worst thing.
Best thing, worst thing.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing just is probably the whole like Okinawa thing. I also really like the Crease flashbacks.
I was surprised by how much I ended up appreciating all of that.
Yeah.
They came up with a surprisingly believable, at least in the context of this really absurd show, way to get to make Crease a fully realized three-dimensional, as sympathetic as he can be character, where we understand how he became the nut job he is. You never thought going back to Karate Kid you would ever get that for that character. And it was like the people making the show looked at that first movie the way I did the first time I saw it, and were like, nobody's like this. Like, how is this guy teaching a bunch of kids at a karate class strike first? And, like, where does he even get to that whole thing? He's like the anti-Zordon. Like, the guy is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And now we know why. And his experience in Vietnam, this extreme thing where he gets, where he gets people killed because he showed mercy, and he applies that to the rest of his life. You can never show mercy, or someone will die, or someone will get hurt. And then he applies that to what happens at the end of last season, and says, see, that's why that's why Miguel got put in the hospital, because he showed someone mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, that whole thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that really won me over on the season.
Mm-hmm. And I really like how they kind of trick us to thinking that Crease is, in like the first Crease flashback, that Crease is the guy who is like basically a complete nut job, but then it turns out to be like a waiter.
Yeah, then we see how he gets there.
Yeah.
Because, in the first time you see him, he's in a diner. Mm-hmm. Is he waiting tables or are he just sweeping floors? But he's like a busboy at a diner, just working there, and you're like, oh, okay. So they're gonna actually start him from a reasonable place. He's a regular person at some point in his life, and the show really understands the kind of writing 101, how to make a character sympathetic, which, as I always say, doesn't mean likable. It means you understand how they became who they are, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Really good picks for best things. Okay, worst thing. Because I know this season is something of a mixed bag for you.
The whole thing with the dealership. Just the whole thing. I don't like that other dealership guy at all.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks or whatever his name is.
I'm pretty sure it's not Tom Hanks. That kind of cocky jerk face who comes in and is like, you're gonna have to sell me your dealership, or you're gonna, for this like really piddly amount, or you're gonna go under because the whole valley hates you now because they blame you for getting kids hurt, and they don't want karate in the valley anymore.
Yeah.
I have issues with that whole thing. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I'm with you. Do you feel the same way I do about the thing with the dealership? I would have liked to have seen them lose it and see what they would, like how they would bounce back from that. And because it seems like it would be easier to buy getting back into karate if Daniel had nothing else to do after that. Because the whole last season was about how he couldn't balance the two things. And when they're like, oh God, I'm like, we're gonna lose the dojo, nobody's coming and buying cars anymore, I didn't see how they could possibly bounce back from that. And once they do bounce back from it, it seems too easy to me. Not just because there just happens to be somebody in Okinawa that's connected to his love interest from season 2, or from movie 2, and she works for the company that sells them their cars. And so I think that's the whole thing.
Toyota, yeah.
Yeah.
Daytona, USA.
Toyota, yeah. And so she just basically works some magic and, like, poof, fixes the whole problem. But that wouldn't make everybody start shopping there again. And it's like all of a sudden they have customers again, and I don't know why that is.
I guess...
Did you have that?
I guess just because, like, everyone who comes to the dealership buys Toyota cars, not any other car.
I guess that's if that's the only place you can get it. You're right. Maybe that's why that works, but I still think that they would be somewhat hobbled by the reputation that he has now, and maybe the idea is that time is passing and people's memories are short, and like all of the damage control that he tried to do, especially in like just not using karate lingo and imagery in his commercials anymore, it actually worked, but I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I buy that enough time has passed. Yeah. But I've got issues with that whole thing. I don't know if I buy that the karate tournament would actually still keep going. That like Miguel's speech would work. Like,
yeah.
And all of that, just that soon, still after kids got expelled and somebody went in a coma and all of that. And also the crazy bullying that's going on through the valley where kids are getting, like, their arms broken and stuff.
Yeah.
There's that whole question. And, okay, here's my biggest question, because this is somewhat connected to all that. With the whole, would karate still be even allowed in the valley after this? I like that at the beginning, the parents are all, we don't want karate anymore. But conveniently, everyone still gets to go to karate in Cobra Kai. There's not one piece of drama about a kid whose parents won't let him go to that karate school. And I don't buy that. And then when you get to the end, and everybody's back to dojos, like, everybody's able to go back to Miyagi-Do when we finally open it again, or whatever we end up calling it, because we've put the two together at the end. And before that, the whole eagle fang, which is hilarious, and I love that. So eagles don't have fangs, and Johnny's like, you shut up. That whole thing's really funny. Yeah. But are you with me there? Like, I get that this is a really absurd show, and there are some gimmies here and there that I'll give it. That whole thing I had a hard time with.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
That may be my worst thing, is that we sweep that under the rug a little bit too quickly. That's not actually my worst thing, but it's up there. So, flip your sign.
Okay.
It's pretty clear where you're gonna go with that. Okay, so I've already done some talking, so I'll just do the sign flip real quick. Oh, I don't know why I took yours. I have one here.
Yeah, you have one.
Okay, so I am also feeling this season. Like I said, this was an absolute roller coaster ride for me. I did not expect to be so happy with the end of the season and to enjoy the back half as much as I did after the first 3 episodes. I agree with DJ. I think it's a little too everywhere. It's a little bit too bleak and not fun enough at the beginning, and I get that, and it's certainly trying to still have its brand of levity, particularly with still doing a lot with Johnny's complete lack of understanding about technology, which I think it might be taking a little too far this season, but it's still funny. Riddle me this, okay? Do you buy that? And again, this is kind of tough. It's hard to decide where the internal logic line should be in a thing like this, because it is definitely mostly a melodrama at this point. I talked with Eric about this the other day, and he said some of the issues that I have with it didn't bother him because it's basically straight up melodrama now. I think especially after finishing this season, I more or less agree with that. And I had not seen the last 2 episodes when he and I talked about it, and I was still a little bit unsure about it. And once we got to the end, and it went exactly where I wanted it to go the whole season, Jason. Yeah. At the end of season 2, I said they have to finally reconcile Johnny and Daniel, and they have to put the 2 dojos together. Like that has to happen. I'm kind of out if they don't do that. Yeah. And I was originally kind of hoping it would happen earlier in the season, but I think I ended up overall enjoying the road that got there, and it was a really good cliffhanger for the end of the season. I also agree with Eric when he says the next season clearly is about getting them to the big karate tournament, and where do you go after that? This has to end at season 4. If 4 is not their last season, that's a mistake. Especially because I don't think they have anything else they can really mine from the movies at this point. Because there's still a bunch of flashbacks from the movies, a bunch of archival footage.
And I don't like that. Like, get it. There's things from the movies that's in this. Like,
Eric had an interesting argument about that when I made that point to him, though, Jason. Because, there's one episode that is 37 minutes long, and 7 minutes of it, I swear to God, is all archival footage. That's, I think, the first Okinawa episode. Yeah, where they show, I mean, it's like 3 or 4 minutes before we get into any new footage. We're just showing a bunch of stuff from movie 2. And he pointed out something that I had not thought of, and maybe makes me a little bit more okay with it, although I still think it's overdone and we do more of it than we need to. He said, yeah, but those movies did that.
Really?
He said, we're in the style of those films. He said 2 and 3 constantly flashing back and showing you footage from the movies that had happened already. And I said, and I don't mean to just make this a discussion with Eric, who's not here right now, but this was an interesting conversation. And I said, oh, you know what they were doing? They were ripping off Rocky, because the Rocky movies do that. And he said, well, that makes sense, because those were directed by the guy who directed the first Rocky movie, which I had forgotten about. So that's why, yeah. Yep. So it all makes sense now. Yeah. So anyway, but like I said, I totally agree with DJ that it's off to kind of a rough start. I think we live in aftermath land too long, and it's I think the pacing at the beginning is really kind of wonky, and maybe it's ultimately necessary. They've got to do some legwork to get us to a new status quo. And I'm with you. I did not enjoy a lot of that physical therapy stuff with Miguel. I thought that a lot of the kind of pratfall humor they were doing with that just wasn't really all that funny and kind of fell flat. Like I said, I thought that they went maybe a little too far with some of the technology stuff with him. I was going to ask you a question a minute ago, and then I ran off the rails, but let me go ahead and ask you this now. So riddle me this. Do you buy that a guy who regularly finally learns how to use a smartphone, which means he would have to be plugging it in, doesn't figure out that his laptop needs to be plugged into a wall.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that. It's like, but you use a phone, dude. Like, he thought, and there's that funny line where he takes his, because he's trying to earn money to help Miguel because he needs a surgery, right? And so he's trying to pawn off some stuff, and he takes the laptop that he had bought at a pawn shop back to that pawn shop, and he tries to pawn it off again. And the guy doesn't want it, and he's like, he's like, well, it's broken. Because it's supposed to be wireless, but it stopped working after a few hours. And the guy's like, no, that's not what wireless means. And I'm like, okay, but you also have a wireless phone. Like, I don't see how we did one and not the other, which sounds kind of nitpicky, but there's little things like that throughout the season where I'm trying to decide how stingy I should be about internal logic. Like, because it's such an absurd show and it's a comedy, should I give it stuff like that for the sake of jokes? I don't know. Like, does stuff like that bug you at all?
No.
Did you even think about that?
Nope.
So yeah, I don't know. Worst thing is probably some pacing stuff in the first half, and just the fact that I was kind of falling out of love with characters. I didn't like Robbie anymore. I didn't like Miguel anymore. And then by the second half of the season, I didn't have that anymore.
Okay, I like Miguel. Miguel is my favorite character.
Oh, is he?
In season 3.
Has he been through the show?
Yeah.
Okay, now I would have thought that at some point you would have said Sam is your favorite character because you're obsessed with female protagonists, particularly teenagers. But you didn't have that?
I mean, she's not my least favorite character or my favorite character.
Yeah.
I liked her more in season 2. I didn't like her a lot in, like, the first half of season 1.
What do you think of... I can't remember her name. What do you think of that rebel girl that is on Cobra Kai that's basically, like, the Faith
Tori?
of this show? Tori, yeah. And are you with me on that? She's basically Faith.
Yeah. But yeah, should we do...
well, I'm just asking you what you think of that character. Yeah.
Yeah.
My best thing real quick, is hands down Allie. She is freaking amazing. I love the actress. She comes back and she can act again, and it's fantastic. And really, that's true of everybody we brought back. The girl from movie 2 in Okinawa, her performance is, I don't know, at first I would have called it sappy, and then it clicked with me later, and there's a lot of heart and warmth in that, and I like that with both her and Allie. Like, some of this is the actors, and some of this is the writing on the page. It's all really classy, ultimately. The guy that plays Chosen is really great. I think he has one of the best performances the whole season.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that if you want to. He's great. And then, and I wasn't sure about him at first. And then he has that turn where you realize he's been putting on an act the whole time. Yeah. And he's actually like this really kind of wise sage character while he's just pretending to be kind of a jerk-faced bully the whole time. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then when you get to the end, and Allie shows up, it's the whole thing is so classy, where I thought that with, well, not necessarily the girl from Okinawa, I forget her name. I thought that there might be like a little bit of some kind of like of like chemistry there between the two, but we don't go remotely to a romantic place because of course he's married and she has a life, and we're not going to do that. But I really thought that we were going to have some love triangle stuff going on with Allie, and we didn't do it there either with either of our two protagonists, with either Daniel or Johnny, and that was handled in such a classy way.
I'm really glad that they didn't go that way with Johnny.
Yeah, because Johnny finally got his relationship back together with Miguel's mom, and I did not think it was possible to come back from that, and I bought it hook, line, and sinker, and I was really impressed that I did. Did you have that? Like the way she's so angry with him last season? I mean, this whole thing is basically a soap opera. But I it's a pretty good one. The end of last season, where she's blaming him for putting Miguel in the hospital, and somewhat rightly so, and doesn't want him anywhere near them. But then this season, Miguel insists on seeing him, and so she kind of begrudgingly allows it. And then as time goes on, they fall back in love again. And yeah, I didn't think he could have been redeemed for all that, and that they could put that relationship back together. But
that first scene in season 2 with their relationship, with that dream sequence, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's also really weird.
If memory serves, wasn't I like, this is a dream? And you were like, oh, is it? And then it was?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this by the end. This is definitely not the best season of this show, just because, and it had a really difficult time at the beginning, like getting on its feet. Like, I don't know if there is a less, overall, now that I've seen the whole season, I don't know that there is a less clunky way to get where we got at the end of this. So I think just because of the corner they wrote themselves in, and I have a lot of respect for writers trying crazy things like that, where it's like, we have no idea how we're going to get out of this, but this is the most dramatic, exciting, like crazy idea we had for the end of the season, kind of like the Best of Both Worlds thing. Like, there's no way at the beginning of season 4 TNG that the second part of Best of Both Worlds is going to be as good as that first part. It's kind of impossible. You wrote yourself into a corner. So I mean, they had big ambitions, and the impressive thing is that it ends better than it begins. And so I'm really impressed with that. I think season 1 actually still might be its best season. And Eric says that it's kind of had a shift, where the first season was more of a serious drama. I mean, it was always comedic, certainly, but was something to be taken more seriously, and it's become a melodrama. And I think I mostly agree with that, and maybe I kind of liked it more before it got as over the top and, to some people, shark jumpy as it got. But then I enjoy stuff like that crazy school fight so much that I'm kind of fine with the absurdity that it's gone to.
Yeah, and again with the like house fight thing, I love that whole thing. It does like the whole like Whedon thing where it just keeps going on and it like never cuts.
There was a really impressive oneer through that whole thing. Yeah, we pointed that out. What was like a minute and a half? We just couldn't even believe it. And there's like 3 or 4 stunts in this oneer.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this show has gotten more money since it's moved to Netflix, but it must have. But I don't feel like it's gone too far in its production values, where it's like, now we've got money, so we've got to like flaunt it on the screen and make the show, something that it wasn't. Like, first season, especially at the beginning, feels a little bit like it's shot like Dr. Horrible or something, where it just doesn't have a lot of money. They're just shooting up backlots and stuff, and then in location shooting and stuff. And then the second season, it kind of, the production values are a little bit higher, but it still has the grit that they had in the first place, and this season still has not lost that.
Yeah.
The most cool thing about the house fight at the end is, I was afraid that was going to be just a retread of the school fight from the end of the second season, and especially because of where it falls, and it isn't that at all. It's doing entirely different things. It's progressing characters in surprising ways. The whole thing with Hawk, I think, could have been seeded a little bit better. I think he needs more screen time earlier in the season, but I do love where we get to with him, where he like, the pressure has gotten to him. The Crease has gotten them to go way too far in their extreme ideology and the ideal of strike first, show no mercy, that whole thing. And so, like, Crease has got them just going around being bullies, and he's broken the arm of his former best friend, and that's taken him to a like horrific place in his head where he's like, okay, I've crossed a line, I can't do this anymore. And he goes all the way up to going into the house fight and leading that whole thing, basically leading the charge, and then halfway in the middle he switches sides. And I did buy that. I think it could have been seated a little bit better, but
yeah, I was expecting that.
Were you really?
Not when they first started the house fight, but when they when he was like just about to get him, I was like, okay, that's not gonna happen. And then I was like, Oh, yeah, I got it correct.
So do you have some stuff on a list that you want to go through?
I mean, we kind of...
Have we talked most of it?
Most of it, yeah.
Favorite and least favorite episodes?
Okay, December 19, the last episode, with the house scene and everything, and the two dojos working together. I really like that ending. It's really good.
And Allie bringing them together, is that episode or is it the episode before?
Well, it's that episode.
Isn't it that episode? Because doesn't it go over those episodes? I love both of the kind of dates. But like not really romantic dates, just like kind of finding each other again and catching up. That whole thing. That could have been boring. It wasn't. It could have been overly sappy. I didn't think it was. At least for the sensibilities of this show. You have Johnny and Allie kind of commiserating about the past, and Johnny finally, for the first time, really being able to open up and just totally be himself with someone. And she totally accepts him, but not because they're going to fall in love and get together, but because she gets him and she relates to what's happened to him in his past to some degree. And the most impressive thing to me, and the classiest thing, is that she is the thing that created the rift and the rivalry. I shouldn't say rift because they weren't friends in the first place, but the rivalry between Daniel and Johnny back in high school. Like their whole their whole relationship, the antagonistic relationship, was about how they both wanted that girl. And she's the one that brings them together. She's the one at the end of the season that basically says, you guys need to grow up and realize that you are more alike than you are different. I like the way she spells this out. I think it totally works. She says, you're more alike than different. And she says, part of the reason you hate each other is because you keep seeing things in each other that remind you of yourself that you don't like. They're seeing each other's flaws in them. I think I've made that point in the past about that relationship. And you have to have her before they come together at the end. That is not how I thought they would use her. We were waiting the whole season for her to show up. I kind of thought she was going to be in more of it. I love the way she's used as a supporting character and as to facilitate all of that. And she does feel like a real person too. And as much as I loved her, and she's maybe my favorite thing in this whole show at this point, I kind of hope we never see her again. Yeah. Because the way she's handled to facilitate all that is so good, we could ruin it by seeing her again. Or maybe she could show up in like the very last episode just as a send-off thing. But like, I kind of don't ever want to see her again.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the main thing I wanted to talk about, because I think it's so good. It's rocking.
And then my other favorite episode is Miyagi-Do. That's the episode with Chosen. It's also the episode where they go to the concert.
And he starts tapping his foot. Mm-hmm. Miguel, when he's paralyzed and afraid he's never going to walk again.
Mm-hmm. That's also the episode that a lot of things happen in this episode. That's also the episode with Golf and Stuff, where they break his arm.
Oh yeah, jeez.
Yeah. But it also is.
Wow,
it's
they
not
packed
that
a
great,
lot.
but it's also pretty good.
They packed a lot in a half an hour there, didn't they?
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, that was that 37-minute episode, but again, a lot of that, or was it? Or was that?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, that was the one before, wasn't it? Because he's actually in Okinawa in two straight episodes, which is cool. I don't like the way we reveal Okinawa.
Yeah.
Or the way we reveal, I guess, Japan. Because, well, no, it is Okinawa, because that's a village inside of Okinawa, right? And where he goes, it's Simi Village. And I like I do like the whole thing about how, like, corporations have taken over in order to keep that town surviving. And I like that we see both sides of that. So at first, Daniel's devastated by that whole thing. And then you find out that it's not as horrible and they haven't lost everything as you thought they might. And the girl from 2 really puts that whole thing in perspective. I like that a lot. There's some really nice commentary about the pros and cons to big commercialism and and like, how you can hang on to the past without living in the past and all of that. But I don't like, what I'm going to say, right? At the end of the third episode, where he's got to go to Japan, and he's like, "Oh, I have a plan. I got somebody I can go talk to," and immediately you and I are going, "Okay, so he's going to Japan, right?" So he goes to Japan because that's the car maker that can save his dealership. So he's gonna go there try to make a deal with them, and he and so we get a zoom in on a building. And then we back it off, and the building's got Japanese writing on it. And we're like, okay, so the big reveal is he's going back to Japan, like he did in the second movie. Because we have to go back and do everything we've done in Karate Kid again in the show. And then they back it off again. They show you, like basically the skyline, and it's 3 seconds before the episode is over. And it says Okinawa, Japan.
It says Tokyo, Japan.
Excuse me, Tokyo. Yeah. He's not in Okinawa yet. It says Tokyo, Japan on the screen in a location stamp, and you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, this show thinks I'm an idiot constantly. I'm glad the writing is overall as good as it is, or I would not be able to handle that, because it does not give me any credit, and it thinks I'm a complete stupid person. But at least I like some of these characters, and they come alive and feel like real people to me, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Did you have that? Were you just like, come on?
Yeah. I don't know what they're gonna do with season 4. I know they're gonna do a lot of more aftermath, but after season 3, but I don't know.
And then, so here's the nice thing: there's not a ton to come back from, like there was at the end of 2. So I do expect more rising action, straightforward momentum directly after what was established at the end of this. The end of, I don't agree with you. I think it is clearer to see where we're going than it was at the end of season 2, and that's cool, because we're not repeating ourselves. We're not relying on the same kind of gimmicks. It's not the same kind of season cliffhanger. I really appreciate a show where every season cliffhanger isn't somebody is in peril and are they going to make it out alive or not. I really like that we're not doing that. That was the coma at the end of the second season, but the end of the third season is like clear, defined roles or rivalries, right? So we've got alliances. Here's who has allied themselves with whom, and there's a terrible sentence. And we've flipped some characters that are on different sides than they were before, because this is a soap opera, it's a melodrama, that's the fun stuff to do. So Hawk has switched sides now. He is now going to be with Miyagi-Do, or whatever we end up. Did they say what they're calling that?
Nope.
Okay, whatever they end up calling that. Obviously it's not still going to be Eagle Fang. And
probably just going to be a Miyagi-Do.
I assume it's still Miyagi-Do, especially because they're in the outside dojo that is where they established Miyagi-Do. And
it's not in a public park.
That whole thing was really what you mean? I don't have to pay to use the space? And the guy's like, no, it's a public park. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
I'm not a realtor.
It's just a guy that he talks to.
That was so. It was ridiculous, but it was really funny. But you've got now Miguel and Robbie totally flipped. Where Miguel was originally the golden boy for Johnny and the beginning of Cobra Kai, and now he's over with LaRusso, and Robbie is flipped now, and he's over for the first time with Crease at Cobra Kai, yeah. So that's all really fun, but you can tell that the whole season is going to be ramping up to that tournament. The question is, how do you get 10 episodes out of that, I guess? But I don't think you're going to see a bunch of aftermath at the beginning, because there's nothing to come back from, like there was at the end of the second season.
Yeah, it's. I mean, at the end of the season, there's this reveal, and I don't know who it is. It's like a friend of Crease who he like calls.
Yes. So when you said reveal, I was like, I don't remember anybody on screen or anything. Yeah, he calls somebody. My guess is it's the other insane psychopathic nut job, like mobster guy from Karate Kid 3.
Yeah.
And then I'm going, wait, did they make... Thanks for bringing that up, because I forgot about it. I'm like, wait a minute. Are they going to say that that's his... his mentor guy, or the guy that he worked with in Vietnam that was in those flashbacks?
Yeah.
Because I can't remember. I've only seen Karate Kid 3 once because it's insane.
It's insane.
And I don't think the show is capable of being more insane than that. Yeah. Like, it's been trying, clearly. Eric says the show works because it's just now being Karate Kid 3, and that's why it can get away with all the absurdity. And I don't know if I totally agree with that, because I think in some ways it's still not even quite Karate Kid 3.
Yeah, and I have to watch those movies again because it's been a long time.
There may have been a line about them serving in Vietnam in that, but I'm just not sure. I don't remember.
I don't remember, and I didn't watch that very closely.
Let me ask you this question: is there? And you said it's been a while since you've seen those movies, so I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm struggling to think of much else from those films that they can mine and throw in, like scenes from, flashbacks from.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is the girl from Next Karate Kid.
Because
that's on Netflix right now.
There's been talk, people have been speculating a long time whether they'll bring her back, and I don't know if that actress would do it. She's she works. I mean, I think she's in stuff still, but
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be crazy if they did that, because that's nobody's favorite Karate Kid. I don't think anybody even remembers that movie, hardly.
I've never even seen that movie, but...
But given that they did... I mean, they went real heavy with 2, not 3 this season, but they have had 3 seasons. So when they go into a season 4, it's hard to imagine they won't do something from Next Karate Kid. You and I should sit down and watch that, because I've only seen it once, and it was when I was a kid, and I don't remember it at all. But I hear it's, like, really, really, really awful. But I don't know how bad it is. So we should sit down and watch it in case they do stuff from it.
We should. Yeah, that would be really fun. And also
probably not
very fun.
What else do we need to talk about?
I mean, all I have is my favorite line.
No, go ahead.
Have you thought of any lines?
Nothing's just jumping out at me at the moment, because it's been a few days, but I did laugh at some stuff. I didn't write anything down.
If you had a funeral, I wouldn't even go to it.
That was the line that busted me up. Yep, that was the best line of the season. That's amazing.
And what's even funnier,
you had a funeral. I wouldn't even go to it.
Like,
who said that? I can't remember.
It was that kid from Miyagi-Do. Is that 9-year-old?
Yeah, that was amazing. Oh, you complained while we were talking about this off camera. I forgot about this. That they they kind of keep forgetting that Sam has a brother.
Yeah. And then he's finally in the last episode. He's
he shows up once before that, but there's a couple places where he's mentioned, but it's like they just don't. He's kind of a nuisance at this point. They just don't even want to have to deal with him.
Yeah.
It's almost like the show is wishing that they hadn't created that character.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. Toward the beginning of the season, I was a little bit frustrated that we had more of that typical rivalry stuff with Johnny and Daniel, where they come together in an uneasy alliance. This whole season is about the standard the enemy of my enemy is your friend kind of thing, and I was really hoping that they would finally let bygones be bygones and put themselves together, and they're still fighting like crazy and end up fighting each other again and all of that. And again, they totally win me over on it by the end of the season. I was kind of glad that it happened that way, because I buy the end with Allie putting them together way more than I would if they were just getting along in a car together.
Which they have done before.
That's true.
So they probably wouldn't even repeat that anyway.
All right, are we good?
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments. Let us know if you saw Cobra Kai Season 3, how you feel about it, where you think things are going, and what you'd like to see in a Season 4, and if you agree with me that really, and Eric, that really should be the last season. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And in the meantime, I guess we'll call it a day. We are both feeling it on this one. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Jayson.
I'm losing my E. I gotta get this
And my
repaired.
thing can just...
Yeah, these are falling apart. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching once again, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, folks.